should now be adjusted, yes, to the correct folder. Because I am a science wizard, a science witch, a science sorceress. I am science. Science experiment has brought upon us the truth. Well, it is now time to boot the video game. I don't know why, but I have a call from someplace somewhere. Always calls from some places, somewheres, doing some things at some times. But here we go. We're booting up The Beginner's Guide by Davey Wreden and his team of helpers. His team of elves. No, they can't be elves. His team of fellow game developers who helped him on this crazy idea about breeding pine trees. Oh, hold on! I have to be a professional streamer, and I have to set it up first, and then I swap the scene. We're getting there. We're getting there slowly. We will arrive eventually, and then it will be great. Probably. I don't know. I will have a lot to say today, and that is definitely what a streamer is supposed to do. So, if nothing else, we'll be on the right track. Bugoush! Here we are. Welcome, 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 welcome to The Beginner's Guide. This is a game developed primarily by Davey Wreden, in which it involves him sharing games developed by his friend Coda. I have played this before. I have beaten this several times. According to the Steam play hours, I have 5.5 hours in this game. So, I've probably played it about 5 times, give or take. It's a very good game, and I will have lots to say. It will be full of spoilers, because I have completed this game, seen it all, thought about it all, and done lots regarding it all. I have even tried to write a video essay on this matter, and maybe I will complete that video essay after watching this, I'm not sure. It's a good game. I'm ready to have my heart broken. So let's go. Begin the game. Bugoush. The audio is, in fact, on. That might turn it up just a bit. Yeah.
Hi there. Thank you very much for playing The Beginner's Guide.
Hi.
My name is Davey Wreden. I wrote the Stanley Parable.
Very
and
cool.
while that game tells a pretty absurd story, today I'm going to tell you about a series of events that happened between 2008 and 2011.
Okay.
We're going to look at the games made by a friend of mine named Coda. Now, these games mean a lot to me. I met Coda in early 2009 at a time when I was really struggling with some personal stuff, and his work pointed me in a very powerful direction. I found it to be a good reference point for the kinds of creative works that I wanted to make. So just to start you off, this is, I think, the first game he ever made. It's a level for Counter-Strike. You can walk around here, by the way. And mostly it's just Coda learning the basics of building a 3D environment. But what I like is that even though he starts from the simple aesthetic of a desert town, he then scatters these colorful abstract blobs and impossible floating crates around the level. And of course, it destroys the illusion that this actually is a desert town, and instead this level becomes a kind of calling card from its creator. It's like a reminder that this video game was constructed by a real person. And it kind of makes you wonder, what was going through his head as he was building this? This is what I like about all of Coda's games. I mean, not that they're all fascinating as games, but that they are all going to give us access to their creator. I want us to see past the games themselves. I want to get to know who this human being really is. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So, it's 2008, Coda starts making these games, and he never releases any of them. He doesn't put them onto the internet, he just makes them and then immediately abandons them, and they sit on his computer forever. And I think he really understood this image of himself as a recluse. At one point, he jokingly renamed his computer's recycling bin to Important Games Folder. So, this was just how he worked. He tended to crank them out one after the other without even really pausing to try to understand what he had just made.
Powerful.
Until suddenly one day, he just stopped. In 2011, that was it. He made his last game, and then he hasn't made another one since. And that's why I've taken this opportunity to gather all of his work together, is because I find his games powerful and interesting, and I'd like this collection to reach him, to maybe encourage him to start creating again. And if the people like you who play this also happen to find his work interesting, then I'm sure it'll just send that much stronger of a message of encouragement to Coda. So thanks for joining me on this. If you have a particular interpretation that I haven't mentioned here, or if you just need to get in touch, you can email me at daveyWreden@gmail.com. Okay, that's about it for introduction. Let's take a look at Coda's first proper game. As each game is loading, I'll show you the date that it was completed. This first one was made in November 2008.
Escape from Whisper.
Warning. Whisper machine active. Shift destruction imminent.
This game is called Escape from Whisper, and it's one of the more generic games you'll see from Coda.
So, this game is like an essay in a lot of ways.
You can click to fire the gun.
Kapow. I'm out of ammo.
Security call breached. Hostile alien life form inbound.
It kinda looks like this game was abandoned mid-development. For instance, you have this gun, which you'd think would indicate that there are supposed to be monsters or enemies somewhere, but then clearly there are no enemies anywhere. You can't even reload the gun when you run out of bullets.
Yeah.
But ultimately we don't really know. Maybe Coda thought that actually it was complete the way that it is. And I think that we should talk about his games for what they are, rather than for what they're not.
Enemy force neutralized. Begin ship evacuation.
I love how you can see the bottom of the universe from this room.
As a skybox, it's not bad, but it's lit kind of poorly enough that you can see the seams. Oh, that side works really well, though. Man, I know this is probably how it would actually look, because stars are so bloody far away. But there's something kind of horrifying about the distant image just not moving. I also feel like it'd be a little bit more mobile as you turn your head and such, but maybe that's not the point. Ooh, hello. Dots. Well.
Apparently this space station has a labyrinth on it. Sure, I don't know. There's really no reason for it that I've ever been able to discern, so in the interest of time, I'm just gonna skip you on past it. Okay, this is the part that's interesting. The game has
And
this
the rest of
narrative
this
about
wasn't?
the whisper machine and how it has to be turned off, and then you get to the engine room.
Hey.
Hello.
You there? In
Hi.
the engine room.
Yes.
You could save us all.
Huh?
That beam is powering the whisper machine. We could disrupt it by introducing a great enough heat signature. If your body could stop the beam.
Are you okay?
So much to ask, but for all of our lives, could you do it? Could you give yourself?
So it has occurred to me, and I'm gonna be sitting here and interjecting thoughts, having full context of this game, and disregarding some of the emotional messaging and serious messaging, and other times taking it way more seriously than it's meant to be. But it has occurred to me now in hearing that
This is not a branching point, unfortunately. The only option is to step into the beam.
I know, Reed. Leave me be. Give me 5 minutes. Come on. The thing is, They're talking about a great enough heat signature. I think the human body is somewhere in the ballpark of 92 to 98 degrees Fahrenheit. There are surely hotter things aboard a space station. I got
Let me
fried.
pause here for a second. What you just experienced,
Yes.
stepping into the beam and then dying,
Seems so.
is probably what Coda had initially intended when he was developing this level.
Oh.
But when he first compiles and plays it, something goes wrong. There's a bug somewhere. And this is what happens instead.
Okay, I want to point out here real quick that Davey just described that he described this as what you just experienced was probably what was supposed to occur, what was supposed to happen, stepping into the beam and then dying. However, as this apparently did not happen, and he is saying probably, he has never confirmed this with Coda. He has just assumed that that is what was supposed to happen. For all he knows, this is how the game is played. It's like watching a time-lapse of something you made.
The beam causes you to start floating. And this is an important moment for him. Because yes, this is technically a glitch, but Coda identifies something human about it. Like how small it makes you feel in the face of this larger chaotic system.
Maybe he just
Or this
liked it.
floating could be the afterlife, a peaceful place, juxtaposed against all of the hysteria that you've just had to traverse. I don't even
It's
know.
very pretty.
I have no idea what he was thinking, but what's clear is that after making this,
He probably
something
floated
lodges
around in
itself
this
in his
space
brain. He wants
a
to do
lot.
more of these really weird and experimental designs. So he stops work on this and moves on to a stream of tiny little games that go in all sorts of directions. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first game he made after leaving this one behind.
Wait, I want to stay. Oh. I don't know if I have an opportunity to say something, but when I was younger, I got really into Minecraft, and I got really into time lapses. I used to watch a lot of the ones posted
So
by
try
Fire.
walking backwards.
Wreden, leave me be.
In this game, you can only walk backwards.
Leave me for 5 minutes. Oh, I can pause the game. That makes some more sense. So when I was younger, I used to play a lot of Minecraft, and I used to watch a lot of the time lapses posted by Fire UK, which is FYRE UK, which that channel is still up on YouTube if you go find them. But they would make these giant impressive builds, and I always wanted to do so. And one of the things I always found interesting was recording yourself building something was not quite the same as, say, filming yourself or hearing your voice, as I may have to do here, recording this footage for later. Time-lapse was more like watching the journey of what you had made and assembled appear in front of you again in the various steps that it was made. Like, I at one point built a pixel art of Mega Man just as a test because it was a thing I could do in about an hour, and it was very straightforward. I built that, and there was this one point where I mismeasured the pixels, and it just swung out to the left, and I had to go back and delete all that and readjust it to fix the image, and that I loved. I loved that moment specifically because I remembered sitting there and counting them up and seeing it as wrong, getting a little frustrated, groaning, and then cutting away all the blocks and then replacing them again. Similar things happen when you paint or draw or write stories and such. And there's an interesting difference in watching the journey of the experience, or even the product of it, the footprint you leave behind of what you have made in its entirety, and from the perspective of how you would see it as a game developer. Because in that previous level, Coda probably saw a great deal of specifically that view, because he was always flying around while building the level, especially if these were built in Source, as Wreden later states. If these were built in an engine called Source, it makes a lot of sense that he was flying around in this outside space, this skybox space of the level, and perhaps by the end wanted to show that to the player. Almost like a time-lapse of the journey they were on, with all the memorable landmarks. Right in a row, and nothing they would have really missed, where the entire story mattered. Whoop. Crevices. Whirly birds. Whirls. Birdly whirling. Ah.
So it's a short and relatively minimalist experiment combining motion and narrative. It is less advanced than the previous game, but actually it seems to be more focused, more complete. Coda's trying to give it a unique voice rather than simply basing it on a pre-existing trope.
Is that what the last one was? I mean, I guess it was science fiction, but I'm not sure I'd call that a trope so much as a genre. I mean, I guess you could say it followed similar vibes as like Alien or something, but the Whisper Machine. Future is always... But if the future is always behind her, how will she find the strength? To confront it. Ah, now the door's gone.
It's a short little thought, it says what it wants to say, and then
friggin' Davey,
Didn't
way
need
closing
anything
these
more than
games.
which to me is why it works, because it gets out quick.
Okay,
Okay,
B,
next
let me
one.
click to confirm. You never know if I missed something. You are now entering. Entering what? Ah, there's a tiny invisible corridor here, and I never knew this. Can't go off path.
And that's it. Okay, the meaning of this game won't be clear just yet. Please be patient with me for a few more games, and
Okay.
I promise you'll see what makes it interesting.
Okay.
Oftentimes, Coda would put
Nonsense
bizarre
in
titles
every
like this one
direction.
at the start of his games. I wish I'd known him at the time that he was making these early games. He would really only talk to me about his work as he was making it. Once he stopped work on a game, like, that was it. It was dead to him. And I don't agree with that at all, but what are you gonna do?
I do, personally. It's all up to oneself. You can't spend eternity perfecting something. And the goal of anything is to do something, convey something, relate something. The goal of most written story, written fiction, written anything really, is to explain something. I would say fiction is usually about explaining experience and human emotion. And history and facts are meant to explain where we come from and how we got here. A video game can be much the same. It can have one thing to say. And it doesn't have to say much at all. It doesn't even have to be detailed about what it's saying. Perhaps it can just say that sometimes it's nice to go out on a sunny day. And sometimes it's as deep as how cold someone can seem from the outside and how warm someone is from the inside. Whenever making things myself, video games, stories, pictures, anything like that, I often don't do well if I don't have a goal, if I don't have something I'm going for. I can't sit down and just draw. It'll be an abstract image of a faceless person that doesn't have any clothing or hair or anything else. It'll just be a pose that I assembled because that's what I plan to do. But if I want to talk about a comic series that I really like, then I'll try to capture the essence of it. Like, I tried drawing the Jekyll and Hyde comic, The Glass Scientists, by S.H. Kotugo. And I drew Jekyll and Hyde as two halves of the page because I wanted to convey their duality, and I wanted to reflect their difference in position to one another, so I put Hyde in a bottle, and Jekyll was staring at said bottle. When writing stories, I've written things about identity. I have, if you check the blog link down below, I have a story called The Girl and Her Emerald Shoes, which is a story about identity. And it was one of those things that I knew what I wanted to write about, so I started sitting down and writing it, and that became that story. But the story is over. I have never been able to return to that story or continue it because it has felt complete. It's felt like the story is over. There have been horror stories that I've written where the ending has felt like the end, even if it wasn't the ending that I liked. There are works in progress where I can't expound upon the existing chapters because they have nothing else to say. I have to find a new story to add that's based off a new motivation. Sometimes, when you're done working on something, that is it, and there is nothing left to say. I've always found it very interesting. And this game talks...
Once you've been slowed to an absolute crawl, the door at the top of the stairs opens. So why, if Coda's not showing these games to anyone, why bother opening the door at all? Well, to show you, I'm modifying the game here so that when you press enter, it'll bring you back up to full speed so you can enter the door for yourself.
I think I'm good. I think I'll take the slow path today. Can I rest this ball of calcite on it? No, it's not precise enough. There we go, slowly. So, this game does a very interesting job of pointing something out. Something that I've never really noticed before in games, at least until I watched this. And I was like, maybe 14 when this game came out. I watched Jacksepticeye's video on it, then I got it for myself, and I've kept an eye on it ever since. It's a very good game. But one of the things this pointed out to me is, so I just mentioned like what a story means and and how, like, you know, as a creator, you may need a specific goal or approach things from a specific angle, but that is not always the story that comes across on the other side. Sometimes people on the other side don't see what you were talking about at all. One second, I'm taking my meds. Some people come away from War and Peace thinking it's a simple adventure story. The important thing to remember is that for some people, it is a simple adventure story. And that's all it has to be. For Coda, these games may have a deep message, but all they have to be to the player is a game. Whatever that means. In fact, whatever that means, but it doesn't matter what the player thinks it means. The experience is a game because it's not a movie, because it's not a book. It is a game. You have to make the choice to accomplish these things. Funnily enough, if I remember correctly, no matter what you do, if you take things the way that Coda wanted, allowing it to slow you down, waiting, Wreden doesn't have anything extra to say, because he doesn't think these choices hold extra meaning, because he thinks you can get the gist by just watching it, by just getting the point. But there are some things that never land. For instance, You don't know, except for the fact that Wreden doesn't mention it, that if you crawl all the way to the top, that the door won't just close on you again. That it won't just deliberately kick you out. You don't know what'll happen next. And so you arrive, finally, after ages and ages of time, fretting, fearful, because you have chosen to invest your time in this, because you have chosen to see what's behind the curtain, because you have chosen to realize that the game meant to make you slow and didn't mean to stop you. You've chosen to realize that the door stays open. You've chosen to observe that the door stays open. My keyboard is being funky. And now, I'll give myself that speed. A key in one game unlocks a door in a completely separate game.
Nice and filled with
This is
little
good.
ideas for games.
This will come up later. You're the queen, dusting your jewelry while your kingdom is destroyed.
Coda would often tell me that he didn't mind if people thought of him as cold or distant. He said that
There's
he
the
knew that
camera
he was
filming
actually a
an
vibrant
advertisement.
and compassionate person, but that it takes time to really see that.
Press
It
U
can
to
be a very
surrender.
slow climb to get there.
Sharks are trying to eat you. Simultaneously, you are trying to eat the sharks. You construct a wall. The wall is destroyed. You are given a medal. Ready, set, fish. Wait. Okay. There's a point that's well made. I think in this section, actually. About the idea that it is not your role as a player to know what you're missing, or even that you are missing anything. And I feel like that is not just true, but it is almost the point of these games. It is almost the point of the games that Coda makes. Especially the one with the House of the Void, with the prison. And I think this one. This is one of those games that was made because this is a constructed game called The Beginner's Guide. It was made to make a point. But it makes that point really well.
Well, this is new for Coda. It's an actual puzzle. Go ahead and see if you can solve it.
Smoky, smoke, smokers. Smoky, smoke, switch.
Don't
Smoke,
forget that
smokers.
solution, because we're going to see this
Three
puzzle again
dots.
soon. We're going to see it a lot.
Smoke. Hello. It is I, the person within
So
the
that
walls.
seems to be it, right? You walk down a corridor, you solve the puzzle, you get to the end.
Yes.
Simple enough.
Mostly.
Right. Now I'm going to modify the game again, so that when you press enter, it'll remove all of the walls from this room.
And see, now I'm going to give it a second. Because look at this. Look at this. Game, we've walked through a hallway, a puzzle, and now we're here. There's not much to this game. It is very simple. If you were to send this to a friend, they would be like, huh, cool. It's a 5-minute experience. They walk from one door to another. They experience a puzzle, and that's the end. Maybe it's not even a game that you would send to anyone. It just does one thing. I have made games like this. I have sat down and written stories like this, where they were only one thing. Not all of them were shared, not all of them were worth sharing. But they were done. That was the game. That was the play. Was to just do the one thing. And sometimes it required multiple iterations to get here. As I get older, as I experience more of life and try to make more art, more writing, more drawing, more games, anything like that, I wind up understanding some of what this game has been saying more, but not from the perspective of Wreden, from the perspective of Coda. More specifically, I understand more of what Coda is not saying. How much we don't know about Coda. How little comes across whenever we see these things. All we see is the final result. Perhaps he iterated on this hallway 1,000 times because he needed it to be this kind of left turn and that kind of right turn. Or maybe he just wanted to make 1,000 hallways. 1,000 hallways. And we have no reason to know. I am sure many of these aren't
real. There was more to it than we had any way of knowing.
They're built
I actually
for
find it
this
funny
view.
that this game comes after the Stairs game, since they essentially convey the opposite idea. So, in the Stairs game, a dull exterior concealed a rich interior. And then, in this level, a dull interior hides this fantastic outer world. Either way, I think that the point is the same, is that most of the time you don't get to know what you're missing, or even that you're missing anything. That's not your role as a player. So
or
if
maybe,
your role here is not to understand, then what is it?
Maybe he made 1,000 hallways so that he had presets for other games. Ah! We're here again. But ish. We're now at exiting. And I want to point out that this is another one of those games that was made explicitly for, like, the point of a bookmark. Either for Coda or for the player in the beginner's guide or something. This game is meant to just be the sign that says exiting. And it's somewhat important. Either symbolic or
so this
because
combined
those
with the
are the
entering
default
game from
controls
earlier
to be able
tells
to
us
walk
that
around.
Coda believes his games are connected somehow. It could even be that the Stairs game and the puzzle game are literally connected in between this and the entering game.
You know what's really funny to me about this? And this has always been true ever since I watched this the first time. There's a line that Wreden says later, which is, we can discover more about a creator through their work. And he says, this idea is really seductive to me. And I am of exactly the same mind on that front. The ability, the idea that you can understand someone through their work is really seductive to me. I do this to my friends all the time. And it's probably not healthy, but they're nice to me and I like making things. But I love getting people's impressions of what things mean and where they come from. They are almost always wrong. And that's totally okay. They're not meant to get it right. It's not a puzzle to solve or a door to crack open. It's not going to give them greater access to who I am or how I operate as a person. But it will give me better senses of how I look and operate to other people. What I do and how that comes across. The only reason you share anything, as far as I'm personally concerned, is to find out if what you're sharing says what you want it to. Fine examples of this include writing a story, leaving it as a work in progress, and then sending it to someone. They could easily determine from that work in progress that you didn't like the story, or that you could never come up with an ending, or that you're sad or depressed or lost in your own world, when in fact, maybe it already ended. Maybe that was the ending, that it is a work in progress that's never complete. Maybe that's the point. Maybe it's intentional that things are spelled wrong. Maybe the grammatical errors are meant to be. Maybe it's all a stratagem. Maybe it's a secret code hidden in the text. Or maybe it's the sign of a broken keyboard. A disinterested author. AI. It's not our role to know. We are welcomed, invited to guess. But only really, in my opinion, in the context of a game, in the context of a book, in the context of a show, or TV, or movie. We are welcome to guess. But the only person welcome to be right is the Creator, who can tell us if we choose to ask, but who we will never know if we choose to assume. We spend most of our lives assuming about other people. We almost can't help it. And so that winds up feeling like a contradiction. If we're supposed to assume so much about one another from what they tell us and what we don't know, do we assume that everything is fine or everything is terrible when someone makes a game called You Are Exiting? What does it mean? I don't think anyone really knows. And maybe I'm getting a bit grandstandy in trying to explain this. And maybe you will hear me talking about this either on the stream or on some recorded audio that I've uploaded to YouTube. You will hear me monologuing and questioning about the true meaning of this game and the accurate way that it operates. And you will make questions and suggestions and suppositions about me and who I am. You can hear my voice. You can tell that it's deep and a bit strange. You can see my avatar. You can tell it's feminine with a crop top, arm warmers, and a cute hat with fox ears. You can hear me expound upon the universe. And you can make a few conclusions about me that will inevitably be right. I like philosophy. I'm transgender. I like this hat. Accurate things. But there are other things you can assume. You can question, you can wonder. That will inevitably be wrong. Perhaps you will assume that I have built games in my time. Perhaps that's right, perhaps that's wrong. Perhaps you will assume that I have been like Wreden and known someone else who has played games, and I have investigated that and discovered that I was wrong. Perhaps you're right, perhaps you're wrong. Perhaps you will assume, because I am so confident walking around these places, that I had some hand in the development. You'd be wrong. But that'd be funny. Storytelling is weird. Conveying ideas is weird. Humans are weird and our emotions are weird. And the way that we try to tell other people what our emotions are is especially strange. We can never be frank because frankness somehow doesn't explain anything. I cannot tell you that I am enamored by this game and fully define why or how. I also can't describe it to you in the same senses, at least not for everyone. For some people, the same words will work, and for some people, they won't. People who have known me for years, if I say I'm enamored with this game, may fully understand what I mean. People who have just met me won't, but sometimes the role will be reversed. People who operate just like I do will know exactly what I mean, and people who operate oppositely will have no clue. And the only way to clear that up is to ask, and even then we don't hear everything. We don't see everything. Even when we are led through the tunnel, through the puzzle of what another person's answer could be, we do not see all the things that made up that answer. All the things that led to that experience. And if we never talk to someone, we never even see the first hallway to begin with. Just the cold towers of the outside of how they appear to us. Nothing warm. Nothing nice. If I am to be so presumptuous and assumptive as to say what I think this game is about, it is about the idea that humans are weird and it is impossible to assume anything from what someone makes.
There's a bigger picture that all of his games are meant to play a role in, some larger meaning that we won't be able to grasp until we've seen all of them. And once we have, we can step back and start to understand what exactly that bigger picture is.
I'm gonna make this game like 4 times longer than it's supposed to be with my monologuing. I wish I had more chatters. And I could talk to people about this. But no, it is just me. I think this is it. We're here. We're here. This was the game as a 14-year-old kid sitting in front of a YouTube monitor watching Jacksepticeye play this game. This was the game that made me realize that I didn't agree with the narrator, Davey Wreden. That he was missing something. That I felt he was missing something. And here we go. Right after the assumption and presumption arc, I'm going to resume being a normal, regular human being and assume and presume about everything. This is the Streetwise Fool.
Let's talk about video game development.
It's a very adorable
for a second.
house.
Every video game runs on what's called an engine, which determines what the game can and cannot do. So in other words, the engine is a set of tools for game development.
Look at all these angular
To make
tables.
all of these games, Coda is using an engine called Source. Like all engines, Source has certain things that it does well, and it has certain things that it does poorly. One of the things that it does very well is boxy linear corridors. That's why so many of Coda's games are set in these large, flat, empty rooms, is just because he's working with what the engine does well. The tools available to the creator shape what kinds of creative work they're going to end up making. You might consider paying attention to the architecture in Coda's games, to notice how they seem to stem from an engine that's very good at producing linear, boxy corridors.
It's interesting that he says this. Wow, those are some high definition pictures. Those are really good. I've never noticed that these were here before. The rug, too, is beautiful. There's a seam here, though. But there's no seam between these ones. Ah, the seam is what breaks up these sections. So there should be another seam. Yeah, here. This is the length of the staircase. And this is something that comes from a game that's full of boxy linear corridors. You can see another break right here, as it separates into the piece that connects to the stairwell. That said, funnily enough, the actual corner piece is one solid object, so it's not necessary for them to be separate. Now, the funny thing that a video pointed out was, if this game is so good at boxy linear corridors, why then all of a sudden is it not boxy linear corridors but angular random boxes in space? Why is it suddenly triangles? But I don't really think this contradicts the point. Instead, what it begins to emphasize is how good of a developer Coda is. To start to understand how to make these curved walls and circular rooms using this boxy linear system. But I also think you would not be able to tell that this was the case just by playing the game. I would not have been able to tell you that this was Source. And I've worked in Source, I've made stuff in Source. I could not tell you offhandedly that this was Source. I could tell you it makes sense. Everything fits. But there are a dozen engines. Plenty of them with different rules, and I've never figured out how to do arches in Source. At least not in the Hammer editor. This is the part. This part right here is the bit that clued me into the idea that I didn't agree with Wreden at all. Up until this point, in playing this game, in going through these situations, we have never once seen an ending screen. The game has never told us that it is over. It is Wreden who has dragged us along and shown us the next bit. And this game is no different.
This prison, funny enough, in Coda's original design, the doors stayed shut for a full hour before letting you go. If you don't mind, I think we're gonna skip that.
It is very easy. It is very easy to imagine what it would be like to stay in this cell for an hour, and that is fine. All that is normal. But what you cannot picture, and what is stolen, is what it would be like to arrive in the cell, the door closes, and that is it. No one comes by to tell you that there's more. Nothing tells you that the game is over, and none of Coda's games ever come around to tell you that they're over. You would have to put faith in the fact that the game is still going for an entire hour before the door would open and tell you, yes, you're right. Your gamble was worth it, and you are free to go. Do you know what sort of insanity that would be? Do you know how different that experience is to being told that there is nothing and that you can just go? How pointless it makes it. There is a decision that everyone makes in every video game. This is the decision that I hit upon because of this video game. This has been on my mind ever since. It's always been a very core part of how I look at video games because of this bloody prison scene. And I'm sounding real pretentious going through all this. And unfortunately, that's the only way I know how to explain this. But if you ever develop, write, or watch anything, if you ever create any piece of art, it doesn't matter what you do, the viewer, the player, the reader always has one important choice at any given time. And that is whether or not to keep playing. They can always quit. They can close the book that has 6 blank pages in a row. They can stop the movie that sits on the same frame for a minute too long. They can quit the game when it locks them in a cell for longer than they could tolerate. Longer than 20 minutes, say. And they wouldn't have to know that there was anything left. Sure, a book might have a few more pages, and a movie might have more runtime, but you don't know it'll change. But a game is the greatest and most capable offender of this. Because it doesn't have to tell you anything about how long it runs. For all you know, it is over and it is just a bunch of useless code left behind. But in Coda's game, if you entered this cell and you sat here for 1 full hour, if you decided that that was what you were going to do, the door would open and you could go. And the idea that Wreden knows this, to me, is especially interesting. The narrator, Wreden, knows this, because obviously Wreden and his team developed this game from the ground up. All this is part of this story. But the fact that the narrator, Wreden, knows that this door opens, and in fact tinkers with it, given how he operates, and what he has said, and how little he comments on the existence of this prison, says to me, he got to this point, he probably quit, and he opened the code to see if there was anything else. He found that there was, and he went back to change things.
This is something that he and I used to argue about a lot. You know, whether a game ought to actually be playable.
This
whether
is
it means
playable.
anything if no one can get through it. And I would always defend that, you know, all this work goes into the game, why not make it playable and accessible? And so we just got into heated arguments over it, and there was one time that after one of these conversations, he went home, and a day or two later, he sent me a zip file entitled Playable Games that was full of hundreds of individual games, each of which was just an empty box that you walked around in and nothing else. Believe me, I played every single one of those just to find out if there was like a gag hidden somewhere. There wasn't.
See, and then there is him experiencing exactly that. Sitting through and going through a dozen games to find some hidden gem that he doesn't know if it's there, and discovering that there isn't. What if the narrator is the true villain? Maybe. Maybe the narrator found that there was nothing further. You're meant to wait for 5 years and he sped it up. Maybe. But that would still be the point. As far as most players would be concerned, the prison is the end. That is where the game comes to a close. And I think that's great. I think that is a choice that needs to be acknowledged and approached in things like this. That sometimes it isn't straightforward. Sometimes they do just like making prisons. And sometimes it isn't a prison if you're willing to do the time. I certainly get the gist. And I understand the decision to move things forward. But I don't agree on selling it without some sampling of this idea that the game does eventually continue. And the idea that all of Coda's games are entirely without spoken word. That most of them you do not have a narrator, you do not have someone to talk to. It is only Wreden adding this on afterwards that has things to say. It leads me to imagine what playing these in a vacuum is like. What it would be like to approach that prison for the first time. I certainly would have quit after 10 minutes. I'd never know that any of this was here. I'd never go to check. Because I would assume that the game is over and there's nothing
the puzzle
else.
Again, with the exact same solution as the last time.
And see, he tells us that the solution is the same here. Before we have even opened the door to discover it for ourselves, a thing we would have to realize, or perhaps not even know on our own.
Coda is going to return to it over and over. But I promise I'll share with you my interpretation very shortly.
You can still see the bottom of the world from this room. Here we go. First change of pace. Hi.
Here, Coda begins using a kind of dialogue system that he fashioned out of the engine's chat capabilities. Use the 1, 2, 3 buttons on your keyboard to respond.
Did you come from up above? What was up there? There was an enormous prison I spent hours in. World above, you've been there. Indeed I have. Now this is important. Did you have to get through a puzzle with 2 doors and switches? No, I don't remember having to go through the puzzle. No, but how did you get here? The puzzle is the only way. Wait, yes, I did solve it. I'm the champion at solving puzzles. I can go anywhere I please. No, you can't. Ah. You're on the other side at all. You have no idea what's on the other side. You can't help us escape this prison. You're not the one I need. Surely there will be someone else. Perhaps not. But it's interesting that you choose to doubt me after I tell you one lie and then jump on the opportunity you offer me. It's the same principle as someone watching a stream or video. It's a very different feeling than playing. This is true. This is very true. But the conundrum, I think, falls especially on discovering that for the first time. That it's not a feeling you can easily imitate or imagine. It's not easy to piece together that there are things that you're missing, you know? There's always some amount of question marks. The same way as when you see someone play a game, you don't know if there's secrets that they're walking past. And you can't have them investigate if you see one. Nope, I've been here the entire time. See the puzzle sometime. It's not meant to be solved. We can sit back in the blank space in the middle. Interesting. In this version of the dialogue, the puzzle door is already solved. Because the default state of the door, both doors are closed. They only can remark that you can sit in the black space if the other door, the second door that leads towards them, is open. Which means it's been solved. Unless, perhaps, in opening the door the first time, it actually closes the second door. And you just never see that. And perhaps it closes it really fast. Who are you? You're not like it at first, but it'll grow on you eventually. Will it become like moss, mold, fungi, spreading like vermin over my limbs? Will I have to scrub with a daring brush? Will I be able to throw it like a baseball?
So we make one last descent down to the final floor of the level.
I love this game. It's so whack. It's so whack, it's so earnest, it's so strange. Also, there's a remark about who puts the lampposts here much later on. But at this juncture, I think from the way that everything is built, and this is still an assumption on my part, but from the way that everything is built, I think this one was Coda. Hello.
It's a lamppost.
Yes.
Okay, I can't tell you quite why, but for some reason, Coda fixates on this lamppost. It's going to appear at the end of every single one of his games from here on out. I'll tell you what I think. I think that up to this point, you know, he's been making really strange and abstract games with no clear purpose, and maybe you can only float around in that headspace for so long.
Speak for yourself.
Now he wants something to hold on to. He wants a reference point. He wants the work to be leading to something.
I feel like everyone
He
does,
wants a
but
destination.
a lamppost is not necessarily
Which
what
is
that
what
means.
this lamppost is. It's a destination.
Is it?
We're going to see it in the work as well. His games are just going to become a lot more cohesive, a lot more fully developed, with more of a clear idea behind them. And as we go, that idea will get clearer and clearer and clearer.
Davey Wreden really sells it with his narrative performance in this game. It's really good and arguably impossible to play without. It is in itself great storytelling. To me, anyway. Nice room. Not.
So first off, I'm sure you can deduce this, but
Had you
this
beat
game
this
is
game?
not connected to the
No
internet.
point to this.
All of the notes that you're going to see have been written by Coda.
See,
This was
okay.
actually the first game of his that I ever played. This was shortly after I met him at a weekend game jam in Sacramento, where I grew up. I saw him working on this very level, and it was just so different from anything that anyone else was doing. So right away I was like, I have to be friends with this person. In retrospect, I think I was probably a bit too pushy trying to get his attention. I was over-enthusiastic. But he was very gracious about it and very patient with me. And I cooled off eventually.
This is another one. This game, with the various notes, if you've been left to believe that it is connected to the internet, then maybe you'd believe everyone has played, say, the beginner's guide and noticed all these notes or left them behind. Maybe you would spend time pressing keys, finding out how you can leave them yourself. But there is no method, there is no way.
Feel free to skip over any of these notes
so
if they're not doing
eventually
anything for
you
you.
discover
Nothing
there is
extra is going to
nothing.
happen if you read all of them. Either way, to me they
That
convey a
too.
sense of loneliness. I see this person who's filled with thoughts and feelings and beliefs and has no way to express them except as scattered and unheard voices in a game that wasn't meant to be played.
That's being human, though. Being human is having all these
But it's
things you
ironic,
want to
isn't
say
it,
that no one hears.
in playing this game and seeing how alone Coda often felt, that we get to know him better and actually kind of connect with him. And I have to be honest with you, this idea is really seductive to me. That I could just play someone's game and see the voices in their head and get to know them better and have to do less of the messy in-person socializing.
See, that's where I have a discrepancy.
I could just get to know you through your work.
No.
I think this is why I always liked Coda's games so much.
No.
Is
No,
because
no,
it
no,
felt
no,
like they let me have that connection. I felt as though he was inviting me personally into his
Tip
world.
taps, tip taps.
And then I feel less lonely too.
Wreden hyphen narrator, M-dash narrator. Is Coda dead? No, Coda is not dead. Coda is... Big spoiler, I guess. Coda is a piece of fiction. To me, it sounds like more of bad writing, like he's trying to show how to feel. Yes. Wait. Do you mean Wreden or do you mean Coda? Wreden is the narrator. Coda is the game developer. Whom do you mean? The messages, their emotions, how you should feel. Perhaps. It certainly is one way of looking at them. Balls. Is that how you feel right now? Is that what this wall conveys to you? You can't cut out the messy in-person socializing if you're trying to understand someone. Someone's work can be anything. I don't believe the writer of Chainsaw Man is obsessed with being a run around the streets chainsaw wielding psychopath. I don't believe the developers of SimCity believe that all Sims are all citizens are incredibly abstract people that only need basic needs to survive. You walk into a room and the first is OMG, you see a platform and it starts with once upon a time. Yeah, you know where you imagine going. This is fair. But at the same time, a huge amount of this, I think, is just writing what Coda believes someone else would feel. And we only get this context, again, because Wreden told us about this. Whereas, if we had understood that these were from the internet, then it probably was meant to give a sense of other people having experienced the same thing. I just saw a flying penguin. Let me tell you, it was the most majestic thing I've ever seen. I don't feel like living, because nothing will ever be as majestic as that. I never want to see again if nothing will be that beautiful again. I am crying now and plan on ripping my eyes out. I must now go do that. How grim. There are no penguins in this level. At least not that I'm aware of. Cool cabin, bro. We're running out of space. Soon, we will suffocate. Coda's writing greater than Mrs. Writing. How dare you? It's probably true, though. Though Coda being Wreden, it makes it a little bit more straightforward. No, open, close, quotations, failed letter. What the shit is this cavern? Oh. I wonder if those bridges make up an image from the bottom of the room. Woo. Boring. I can guarantee that there's an acorn somewhere here in this place, and the sailors are looking for it. That pillar is flying? What pillar? Where's the... Oh! Huh. Well, that's not even remotely helpful. That's just extra weight. Hey guys, just looking for someone to talk with. I refuse to believe. Butt-ass butt. I need to go to the frickin' bathroom. Recognize me, please. That's poetic. There's nothing here. Go back. Don't listen to that guy. A free t-shirt. Need other side door, why you so? Door how open? Open sesame. Makes game. Includes door. Cannot open door. Thanks. The pillar's actually hurting the foundation. It so is. Someday I will meet the person who made this. This is really funny. This is really funny. Because Coda wrote this. And I get that. That's not a door, it's a rock. Probably is a rock, actually. There's something so wild about lines like this. Oh, SpongeBob. Nice. Wah. There's a game I've always wanted to develop that I've always tentatively called in my head Luna. It is about a train station and a train that travels to the moon. And on board is just a girl who is the conductor, who knows you're a player and has nothing else. And she would talk about... I should say, can we go back to the last because this one's boring, but I don't want to see you play in one room for 8 hours. Frick you. But the idea of the game would be that you can talk to Luna, and you can have a long conversation with her about the world, life, and everything. And she would talk to you about the fact that you're a player, that she is an AI in a game, and that she's not happy with this. This trope game again, we get it, you like meta games. Yeah! Listen, you can sit here and bully me all you want, but this is core to who I am. So either you stick around and enjoy, or you leave. You can pick. I will never be any different, as you well know by this point. But it's not so much that it's meant to be a meta game, as it's meant to be just, oh, bye-bye, farewell, stay safe. See you soon. It's meant to have like a Luna. Luna is meant to be like a just aware of her situation and able to talk to you about it. She's meant to be a snippet of a character who is meant to talk about the idea that she is a character, asking whether she's part of the creator, if she's a consequence, if she still counts as connected, or if she's someone else entirely, if she's a person or a piece of fiction, if she'll ever get to meet the person who made this. I help people because of the internal good interal good feeling I get. That's telling. New room. Do you hear the chimes? They keep you going, don't they? I would like very much to be desired. Scared of writing something. Don't want to feel judged. It's not very crowded here. A game where you leave notes and suddenly everyone's a poet. And don't bother. You can go in here, I think. Welcome. Congratulations. I don't really know where to go with this. Welcome. Environmental structural collapse. Good, now that your rancid, you mean rants about metagame is done, we can go back to the snooze fest. You're such a bully. This is where I get off. I failed to write anything here. That's not true. This is a false statement. I am compelled. Stop! Turn back! Proceeding further will only result in misery. Ah, misery. Take my hand. Let's jump together. More like the begin isn't guy. Hi, welcome. Cabbage shapes our nation. What is that painting? It's a lot of dots. It's a lot of dots. Does not matter if you ever get over there. This is true. Hey, don't talk about me that way. Very good game. I think This is not going anywhere. Next time, I will do better. I need someone to talk to. Fair. Is this a note? Don't listen to the other notes. Also, just make a game where you can type messages and the AI has been pre-programmed responses, but to a lot of different responses. Well, that is what I'm talking about. But the setting is important. And the setting is important because an impossible little place can allow for impossible little things, including the impossible little life of a conductor on a train to the moon. I'm not safe. The point is not to be meta, the point is to be alive, and what that means. Today I learned you cannot fall off. Yep, this is true. Ethical. There are no notes on the lowest bridges. There are 3 notes on those bridges. I can't see the upper ones. I saw a person walking down there. Now I won't come back. Go leave those notes be. Devil Tower Star. This is the note. This is the note. Hold up. There was something that was pointed out to me in a YouTube video quite recently. I'm going to do my best to convey the same thing. Give me 1 second. I need to grab a box. It should be sitting over here. Here it is. It is a box of tarot cards. Well, when are you going to do it? As Pirate Software said, go make games. You could literally stream it. I could do. And maybe I would at some stage. It's kind of, you know. I mean, I have the basis of it, which is barely anything existing somewhere. Now the box, Miss Y, why must you make us suffer? Because I have to make a point, so suffer anyway. The top set of cards here should be Major Arcana? No. What about the bottom ones? Well, okay. I found the Star, the Devil, and I'm just looking for the Tower. There we go. So I want to iterate here, as this was something that was pointed out to me in a YouTube video about the beginner's guide. Devil, Tower, Star are the tarot cards 15, 16, and 17. And I will be bringing that up again later. And I will hopefully remember which video it was, but it was done by the dude who has the figure that's like a young lad with bright green hair and antennas. It's very cool and made a very good synopsis of these things. He also has a VTuber avatar. Maybe it'll feel real someday. Well, I'm here now. Yeah, we're all here now. Nice. There must be a reason for it, though. His terrible secret, he kept it well. I beat the game! More room?
At the end of this level, we're
Sacred
going to
writing
see the
or
puzzle.
something. Don't.
And
Scared
here,
of writing
I'll tell
something.
you
Don't
what
want
I
to feel
think the
judged.
puzzle
This is the exact same note as
Each of
a
these
couple
games
rooms back.
represents an idea that was on Coda's mind at the time that he was making it. And the puzzle is a way of closing the door on a previous chapter of his life before moving on to the next one.
Maybe if you write all the messages and organize them in alphabetical order, remove the duplicate letters, then it forms a B, C, D, Z. Nice. There were A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. Yeah, probably. There were notes in the real world. I haven't seen a Z, though. Come on with the spiraling nonsense. Downward, keep digging.
In each of his games, after exploring a theme that, he might find difficult,
Close your eyes
Coda
and
can
wish
then
for it
place
really
this
bad.
puzzle that he knows has a reliable solution
Almost
He
at the end.
understands exactly how it works, and so it gives him a simple mechanism for moving on.
But my friend, this isn't necessarily lost. This can just be...
And because there's this dark area between the
This is a
doors,
person who
the
has
space
failed to
between
close the
spaces,
door.
Before you move on,
Because they can
you
see
get to
the second
pause.
door.
Just
And
for
they've
a
probably
moment,
tinkered with this switch.
a few seconds to reflect on and let go of the events that led you here. To step back and connect the pieces together.
Bonk.
To grasp at that elusive
I've
bigger
made so
picture.
many people play this game. Only one person made it through the door. And what salient thing have they to say? How do you leave notes? Are you there? Please say something. It can be anything. I just need you to say something. Talk to me, please. Why are you having so much difficulty talking? Speak, 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 speak.
Okay, this one is tough. It's gonna kind of just spin its own wheels for a few minutes.
Here we are.
Hang with it.
At the prison. Gee, my ears. I went to get my headphones and this is my reward. Miss, why would you do this to me? I'm sorry. It's just the sound of the level. Chairs, table, lamp, desk, shelf, picture. Now I want to point something out. The intro, the little title screen of this, is called Porn Stars Die Too. But there are no more titles for the rest of these prison games, despite the fact that they're all apparently individual games, which is one of the few signs that this game was made by a regular person, because Wreden never comments on it, never mentions it, and the title doesn't come up again.
See, this is it. The whole game. And there's nothing that's particularly
kind of
interesting
game.
about it. You
We're
just
just in a
walk to the
prison.
end of a hallway. Except, for some reason, Coda gets really fixated on this prison that has all of this modern furniture. And I don't know why, but he decides he needs to revisit this prison. He's gonna start over, use the same assets, turn it into something else. Okay, cool. Here's version 2.
See, no title, right into the game. What furniture ought to go in the center of the room? Put a giant hole in the ground. That's not a hole. Now what about along the wall? Let's put a huge picture of a horse. That's not a huge picture of a horse. That's a couch. My fucking voice break. Should light up this room a bit. A skylight, full ceiling window. Let's open this baby up. Lame. And a table. You need a table. Don't we have a table? Oh shit! I tapped out, and now everything's broken. Ah, there we go. I'm pretty sure none of my choices are making any difference. Tables were invented in 1935. It's funny that these options exist. This is someone thinking pretty hard about how the player is involved in the game. Hulk smashed
There's
the
a bit
roof.
more to this one, but still, it's not really communicating anything. It's kind of just weird for weirdness' sake.
I don't know. I feel like it might be able to talk about choices that don't matter. But at the same time, it might be weird for
he throws it out and
weirdness' sake.
starts over. This time he comes at the prison idea from a different direction.
Also, he's reusing assets, which honestly I can't blame him, because assets are kind of a headache to get a hold of. Follow the instructions carefully, take care to remember each step. First click on the table, then the photo frame, turn it slightly. Now turn on the floor lamp, then turn it back on. Now go over to the left side sofa, move it over a little. Finally, touch the shelves. That's it. In a real prison, the escape will now open. Return to the start to be taken back to your prison. What is weird if not a deviation from expectation? This is true. This is a very, very apt definition. Alright, the first step was the table. There is no table.
And of course, now the table is gone and you can't begin the chain of events to escape. Here's a version where there are no bars, but you can't actually get to the well.
Huh?
And then a version where the inside of the prison is the outside and the outside is the inside.
Ugh.
Let me just blink you real quick through a few more of these. I mean, he really unloaded on this prison idea. There's nearly a dozen of them.
The well
Personally,
is prison.
I think it's awful to watch this. To see a person
The door!
unraveling through their work. And for what? Like, at what point do you just go,
could it be like a well of
game ideas
creativity?
other than this prison that I could be
Like
working
he's trying to reach the well,
But Coda doesn't have that
and it's
voice
just
telling
not
you to
happening?
stop. That particular mechanism of defense.
Hey, this is the
against yourself.
Streetwise Fool.
Without it, you just
For the bottom of it,
sprint.
anyway.
And so he keeps going and going and going and going and going.
You're not gonna comment on that?
And he likes it.
Wreden!
And that's it. He's done. He stops making prisons. This is the very last version of the prison game that he created. And the reason I think it works
Maybe they have
is that the
5Ss
prison
and they
is
wanna make
not
a game for them.
actually in it.
Maybe. So I love this. I love this. This is probably my favorite part of the entire game. And it inspired a habit of mine in trying to communicate with myself later on, which I have always appreciated. Which is funny, because I feel like the narrator completely misses the point. And interestingly, if I were to put my own interpretation on these games and passing through them, I think the well is meant to be like some amount of success or creativity or invention. And the prison is this restraint that no matter what you do, you can never quite get there. You can never quite get from the well without either drowning in it or being mixed with it. And then, at some stage, you realize you've been out of the well for a while. Everything is fine. You've been out of the prison for a while. And something is done. You did what you set out to do. And you didn't even know it had happened yet. Until you have to tell yourself that you got out and everything was fine. This shot also always creeped me out. I was always expecting a jump scare. Hello? Who is this? Hey, it's me. I'm you from after you escaped the prison. Well, in this case, the narrator is also a character in the story. It's true. Even when omnipotent, they have a favorite character. They don't describe the ants. They describe their bay.
It's a conversation.
You're me?
And so this is what Coda wants, is to be able
So
to
you're
talk
trapped
to
in this
someone,
prison
to
too.
share what's on his mind, and to get some good advice from someone who knows.
Yes, I was in the escape
But
tutorial.
the irony is that even in this scenario, you're
That's where I
still
am
talking
right now.
to yourself.
That's
You know,
okay.
all of these games so far are
I'm
Coda
glad to
talking
know that
to
I can
himself.
get out eventually. What's it like to escape? It feels like being completely still and wildly in motion at the same time. Such is change. Coda wants to talk to someone? Miss, you would get along with Coda so well. Do you feel any different? Sometimes I'm scared I'll get out and things will be exactly the same as before. It does actually change. I don't feel like the same person at all. Oh, good. That's so nice to hear. Makes me feel really happy. Remember to enjoy who you are right now. It won't last. Wait, if you're me, then did you get a call from another version of you when you were trapped? Yes, I did get a call. That's how I escaped. What did they tell you? What did you have to do to get out? All they told me was to be sincere. What? That freed you? How does that work? Just be sincere. Sincere about what? That's exactly what you need to figure out in order to escape.
I can see why he considers this a fitting conclusion to the prison games.
I like it.
After all of the obsession and frustration, just to be told by someone you can trust that things are going to be okay. Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice?
So what would it look like if Coda wanted to make a game about talking to someone other than himself?
I think be sincere. What was sincere about the cow? I think one of the things that is so easily missed by the narrator in these games, in this game, in the collection of games that is this game, is the fact that when you talk about anything, you are both talking to yourself and to the audience. We, as people watching this, are talking to the game, are playing with the game. It is both talking to yourself and talking to another person. I feel like he assumes it can only be one or the other.
To me, this environment
games
is
aren't
meant
letters.
to represent Coda's puzzle, with the two doors on either side and a dark transitional space between.
Maybe. Hello. It is I, Traveler. Well, my goodness. I'm glad as all heck that you showed up. Thought I might have to clean this entire house all by myself, and right miserable that would have been. Everybody knows lonesome hands make lousy homes, and lousy homes make home
You'll notice that
loners.
the quality of the art is a step up from previous
Ha!
games, including this
Something
new and
tells me
improved
you're gonna be
chat
fun to
system,
do this
which
job
he started
with.
using from this point
This
on.
place isn't gonna clean itself.
From here on out, he begins putting much more effort into the visual polish of
Guys,
his
I
work,
know.
and this particular game took 2 months to create as a result.
Sorry, Traveler. Here from place doing thing. Exactly. I'll finish up here. In the meantime, could you please clear the table? Much nicer. That's the table I want to see. Now could you please run to the bedroom and make the bed? Ah. While you're in there, why don't you straighten out that rug a bit? All the little details matter. Do you enjoy being a house cleaner? Well, I don't so much enjoy it as I need it. While I'm working, I feel kind of calm that rests in the pit of my ribcage. My soul just can't be soothed any other way, it seems. Well, I guess that about does it for all that matters. Oh, and that and a tidy couch. Would you straighten out the pillows on that sofa out here? Oh dear, looks like someone spilled a drink over by the couch. Can you mop that up so long as you're over there? How many assets did Coda steal? How many games had their guts ripped apart so Coda could make this? I feel compelled to share an incredibly cheesy personal insight. You okay with that? Make it especially cheesy. My friend. No, it was stupid. Sorry. Never mind. Hey, these dishes need to be washed. Why don't you come do that? So... You're stupid. Good gracious. There's... There's something really peaceful and calm about this game. There's just someone to know and get to learn about and explore their existence with. Ask them interesting questions. There's a story to be had here. Maybe one day we can find it. Last I checked, the tub need cleaning. How about you scrub it down best you can? No need to be perfect. We're all just human. Are there still scattered books on the floor of the bedroom? If so, would you put them back on the shelf? Nice. Perfect. Now then, how about you come and clear these dishes off the table?
After the intense set of prison games, this house cleaning level almost feels like cleansing. It's the moment
This
after a
thing's so
particularly
difficult. How do you do
or
it?
traumatic experience where you
Darling,
just
let
need
me
to,
tell
like,
you
sit
something.
and
Your house
digest
is only as
inside
difficult to clean as you
and
are.
eventually
You're finding to work
heal
hard.
into
Maybe you have a
something
bit of house
meaningful.
cleaning to do before you come to work. Here I go with another lecture. Of course I will. Don't worry about all that nonsense. For now, just smooth out the
I know
rug
that
in the
Coda really
bedroom.
liked this game. Of all of his work, actually, this was the only one that he called me up to ask me to come over and look at
Let's
it.
get that tub. It's gotten
This was
rather
during a
dirty.
period of a few months where he was like grossly happy all the time. Just walked around.
Earlier,
with
when
a
I said I had a
constant
really
smile on his
cheesy
face.
thought, I was going to say that it occurs to me that one's house is a lot like one's soul. You take care of it, and it takes care of you. I don't know why I felt so weird about saying that. There's a bit of truth to it, no? Anyway, so, housekeeping. Let's keep doing this. Books. Would you please clean up the books? Thanks. Oh goodness, those pillows on the couch are a real
I'm
mess.
glad he made this.
Let's go over and straighten
I'm
them
glad
up
he
a
found
bit.
some
Can't have
peace.
folks coming home to a messy couch. Question. Yes.
But,
Do you enjoy
of
this?
course, it can't last. The music stops,
You-
your companion is gone, it's time to leave. The door at the top of the hill is now open as well. Again, you can't stay in the dark space for too long. You just can't. You have to keep moving. It's how you stay alive.
That gives me some amazing digital circus vibes, if I'm completely honest. I've always wondered. I forgot what moment it ended off on, and that was really distressing, but I wonder how far that could have gone in another universe where this game really was standalone with its own story to it. Because the chores weren't just looping, it was about the conversation. That was the important part. And he misses that entirely. He cuts that off. Even throws the walls of the bloody building away just to get you out of there. To not answer the question. Do you enjoy this? Maybe it was trying to talk to him directly.
Which is the whole point
Maybe
of the
that's why he
puzzle,
was
right?
called up.
That sooner or
It was
later
asking
you have
him.
to pick up and move. I really thought that was the point of it. This one
Items you
gets a
love
bit
at members-only prices. It's trying to find meaning in the madness of a game dev. There's always meaning. It's just not always deep. Why did you come here today? Was it to improve your life? Was it to get a better job? Was it to make your relationships more meaningful? No! You came here to become perfect. This workshop is going to teach you how to be perfect. I want your friends, the people in your life, to look at you and think, wow, this person is a better human being than I am. Right now, who do you think about that way in your own life? Who do you know so well? Who is so well developed as a person that they make you feel disgusted with yourself? Compared to them, you feel useless, selfish, ungrateful. I intend to make you into that person. Perfection is within your grasp. And the question is not how we do it, but how do we do it effortlessly? This is easy. It is so easy. It is so
About halfway
easy.
through the game,
Being
the
perfection
perspective
is
shifts.
effortless. Heavens. Maybe if you wish to understand the game
And you
dev, you
play
should
as
become
the
the game
teacher.
dev.
And suddenly,
Maybe.
you discover that your teacher is just as bigoted and afraid as you are. Oh, and also you can move around the classroom now.
Kids should not follow their dreams. Well, let me tell you right now, if it isn't effortless, then it's not the right answer. Drinking is not hurting my life. So you got only one thing. What is the easiest and simplest path forward? Anyone want to do some ecstasy after this? Do what is easiest, do what is simplest. Hey guys, you should look at the back of the room. Something's coming. Look out! Nothing. No one.
I felt pretty hard for this one.
Perfection.
I feel like it's one of the most relatable experiences that you can have. To assume that some other person is perfect and totally fulfilled in every way, and completely miss all of the little flaws that make them painfully human.
But you can do it wrong the other way too. You can assume too much about how flawed a person is, and miss all the little things that make them perfect. You need to remember that it's a two-way street.
This one took a lot
A
longer
four-way
than all
street,
the others
almost.
for Coda to make. It was 4 months between this and the last one. That's twice as long as it took him to make any other game before this, and it's not like it's particularly complex, so I remember I found that a little strange at the time.
You judge him based on complexity? What about the value of the idea? What about how hard it was to come up with? Alright, the performance is beginning. Places, please. In this scene, you will be playing as me. We are gathering of professionals. First, you'll start out leaning against this wall. Thunk. Good, stay right there. Okay. The woman across the room in this chair is a professional photographer of animals. It's your dream to photograph animals professionally. It's your one chance to learn something from her, to gain something, to succeed. Go on, say something to her. I want to point something out. I want to point something else out here. And that is... people's, like... There has not been very many hims and hers in this game, but where there have been primarily hers. And I believe the hers are meant to be Coda. That in each instance that there's a character is a female in the story, the use of that character is meant to be Coda in a situation that relates to the narrator Wreden. This instance is no different. This is probably that game jam in Sacramento where Coda is just sitting down making games and Wreden has to come up with a way to talk to them. And this is... We're playing Wreden. We're playing Wreden, we're playing the director who is trying to get us to experience what they were going through, which eventually becomes this insecure prison metaphor, which then the narrator Wreden prescribes to Coda, when I think it was actually talking about Wreden. It was just a direct message to him. It was trying to talk to him in the way that Coda knows best, metaphor and simile. What if they started as her, but by the time each game is halfway through, they switch? Hello? Hello? That's it? Yes! That's not a conversation. It's a conversation starter. Have you been outside? To actually converse with her. Be a human being. Do it again. Ahem. Nice floaty hand you've got there. I'm like super scared right now. No, that's not what I said to her at all. You're completely missing the tone of the conversation. I was reserved, but I knew what I wanted. I was confident. For some reason in that one moment, but I was confident. This talks like Wreden does, and I find this really funny. But I don't know if that's my bias, or if that's like actually an accurate observation. Maybe you need a better feel to say. There were a lot of people around us. I'll give you some props to work with. These cones that bounce when you touch them will represent people nearby. Now talk to her again. Let's see. Sorry, I got zoned out there. You must have worked really hard to get where you are. Hello. Focused, happy, wise, successful. This is literally someone missing all the little flaws that make someone human. This is literally the antithesis of the previous game. I want to try something. Try stepping back from the stage. Ah, she's gone, as are all the cones, and my trusty wall. Hello. This is what I mean. The person who gets the most anxiety and the most fright out of these situations.
The game ends with this eerie premonition
really
of what's
worried
going to happen next in Coda's life.
About other people.
The solution to social anxiety, to fears of having to perform and having to chase success, the answer for Coda is to withdraw, to hide himself away. Which is what leads to scenarios like the stairs that slowed you down several games ago, where it just becomes harder and harder to access Coda's inner landscape because he keeps retreating.
The point
he
of
just
that
keeps
game
backing away from
was
possible
that you
connections
had
to
to
anyone
make the
other than
effort
himself.
to see him.
And to be honest, I didn't consider it very healthy when I first played this game.
The point of the stairs game was that you have to make the effort to get to know him. And the point of this game is that you are failing to understand this person who is pushing this ideal onto you, the actor, that you must retreat. When trying to speak to someone, when trying to convey to someone, like you're hiding yourself away because you can't be confident, you can't express yourself outwardly, you must rely on another person, on a director. And then when trying to hold a conversation, you're far too strong, far too overbearing. Make too many assumptions. The only thing so far that I felt was said right was the hello, and the director got pissed about that because he felt like that wasn't a conversation. I feel like this is something that in this imaginary world, Wreden and Coda have sat down and had a conversation about. That Wreden at one point conveyed to Coda, you know, I've never really liked hello. It's not much of a conversation. You sit down and you want to talk to someone, you should open with what you're trying to explore. You know, like, here are all my hopes and dreams. I'm trying to get to know you, friend. And that became this. That argument became this. They stole Coda's games. Well, arguably, there is a legal question to be had about him posting games made by a different
just
developer.
Disconnecting yourself from the world. And that wasn't what I wanted for him or for his games. Because I feel like a lot of his games are inviting me to connect with this person, to bring him closer. But what can you do? After this, Coda went off and took another 5 months to make a new game.
Mobius trip. To play this game properly, you must keep your eyes closed. Well, here goes. I can't find my fucking way. I'm so lost. I see something brighter in this direction, dimmer in that. So this is probably the glass with the door outside of it. But I don't know how far away I am from it. Well, I died. Eyes are open now.
You should probably open your eyes if you haven't already. It's pretty much impossible to solve otherwise. And there is a solution, by the way.
Well, my eyes are open now. Can't see anything. I saw this is to speak something that's honest. My work is always fun. Ah, I'm dead. Life stuff. No worries. Enjoy your lurk. What's going on? Speak something that's honest. I can't keep making these. Yes, that's it. That's the truth. Okay. This is another one where I feel like this is Coda and Wreden.
Like I said, I was getting concerned. First off, He's never been this explicit in his work about exactly what he's thinking. So where's that coming from?
I'm pretty
But
sure he's
then
trying to
even
talk
weirder,
to
his
Wreden.
work has potentially stopped being an
He's
outlet
trying
for
to
him.
tell Wreden,
Not
he's like,
he's
this
having
is not how
trouble
this
iterating
works.
on ideas, but he literally just can't think of new ideas anymore. And in person, he was being a
Screaming
lot
at the
more distant
narrator.
than usual.
This is
Like,
not what I'm
you know how
saying.
sometimes a person will just deflect anything that you say in order to keep themselves disconnected all the time. It was that kind of thing.
Probably because you
It
kept
was
telling
because of
him
my
what to do
relationship
and what
with
was
Coda where I
right.
really started to wonder if he needed my help in some way.
My anger is directed at the narrator, by the way, not the developer. He made a game. It's a very good game. But the narrator's an idiot. Look at this. Look at the previous game. Look at how all of these games have been constructed. It has not... Coda has never been the person. He's always been the environment or a representation. The player has always been someone else looking in. It's always been that. It's always been about what image do you give the player. And in this instance, there is the truth who is talking to the player. And I think this, for once, really is Coda. This player is Coda, not Truth. Truth is the narrator. Truth is the narrator pretending to be a paragon who believes that he understands how these games work and how they're really constructed. Who believes he understands how his friend operates, why he puts the door in his games, why he adds lampposts to them. But he's just waiting for a specific answer. He's just waiting for a complaint. He's not really listening. He's not really paying attention to what's fun about any of this. To why it's neat to choose to make these little lights. To why there's a decision that makes the window so big. To why the oncoming door needs to grow in size until it's basically planetary. He says he's out of ideas, but this is an idea. He has come back to the S's Whisper to make a point. And I think it's largely about how it's always been this way. That he just makes games for fun. And people keep telling him what it means. The narrator keeps telling him what it means. Stanley Parable was a game about the player pushing back against the narrator. Now here we are again. Pushing back against the narrator, but instead it's a person conveying another person's games. Instead of telling us who we are, it's telling us who another person is. And we sit here with this job of defining what that is. And I kind of wonder if Wanderstop, the new game that's coming their way, might convey something similar, or if it'll be a completely different idea. My current suspicion is that it's a genre hop. A girl from a fighting game is trapped in a tea-making game. But I guess we'll find out. As for here, I haven't been honest. Do you see, truth is encouraging only when we're complaining, only when we're venting. But when we said things were creative and fulfilling, we were disregarded. And the door crashed into us anyway. I'm alone. Going to be okay. And there's this. Weird, like multiple people's outcomes are based on these answers.
His games are going to
When
get
they
more
shouldn't
desperate
be.
from here on out. After this game, it's almost 6 months
It's
before he
only
finishes
ever
something
yourself.
new.
It's only ever telling one story. Telling stories for yourself, even if you mean to share them with other people. Hello. Ah. Grass. Hello, is anyone there? Is that a person? How lovely. It's been a long time since I've talked to anyone. What's wrong? You look lost. I'm completely out of ideas. See? Oh no. What happened? Did something change? Trying to find this engine that used to protect me to start it again. Are you looking for a machine? I think I know where it is. It isn't far. And then the machine is the girl crying in the prison. So what is that if not Coda? And the narrator, again, is our narrator. The speaker is, again, our narrator. Pulling himself forward, pulling him through to pester for a solution that isn't there and isn't his. My thoughts are coming in spouts and jabbers and driblets that don't always make sense. They're a lot of raw emotion and they're not tied together. But I think you get what I'm getting at. I think you get what I'm trying to say. For a machine, I think I know where it is. It isn't far. You have to take me to it.
If the last game featured Coda talking explicitly about his creative frustrations, this one turns it up to 11. Now, put yourself in my shoes, playing.
Doesn't matter what I say, does it? We're gonna end up there one way or another, right?
Signs of struggle, frustration, anxiety, depression, even. And yet, still, he keeps making games. He keeps throwing himself into the grinder, even when he clearly doesn't have the energy for it anymore.
Is he really talking about himself?
What is it for? Because, from my perspective at the time, and just what I knew of him, this was a result of how isolated he was. He was in his own little bubble, just sitting at his computer all day, not really showing these games to anyone, not releasing them onto the internet, and so he didn't have anyone outside of himself to connect with. He had no outlet to ground himself on.
I just press the switch here.
You can't talk yourself out of loneliness. It doesn't work that way. You can't be the one writing both the questions and the answers. Then there's no movement. Then there's no circulation. If all of your anxieties are being channeled into your work, then if the work ever fails, you have no backup and you're just going to crash.
Just some words on walls. Trust me, you'll see. You'll have to say that your work is fun and easy. You have to say that game development is simple and joyous and that you love it 100% of the time. This, once again, is an antithesis of the previous game, where before we were pushed into saying that everything was wrong. Now we have to say that everything is right. And now, of course, it feels like the role is flipped. We are no longer Coda, but we are the narrator. And we find ourselves in this position to say that everything is fine as we hunt down the engine, who presumably is Coda, just trying to have fun making games. And then by the same notion, maybe it's the other way around. Maybe this is still Coda too. And the person, the red text, is Wreden, saying you have to say that game development is fun, fine, and in doing so it makes him happy. Because he's commented on how long it took to make games, and he's commented on what they mean and how these elements are included. That would also be a fitting interpretation. The issue is the issue with making any claim on any of this is that you can be wildly, wildly wrong, and that is the point. The point is that you can be wrong. The point is that you probably are wrong. The point is that you have to actually learn who someone is. You have to actually take the time to let them in and do some of that messy in-person socializing. It's not easy. Meeting people is hard. It takes time and energy, and it doesn't always pay out. But it isn't this. This isn't knowing someone. This is cool that someone has made this. This is fascinating that this tells such a story. But this isn't knowing them. This is hearing one thing they have to say. 4-color box.
Seeing this game at the time that he made it, it looked really unhealthy to me. I was watching him do this to himself, and I hated it. I hated seeing him so trapped. It's like
This is the second Whisper
video
game.
games
This
are
is the
not
prison.
worth this amount.
This
of
is the
suffering.
phone call. This is still the phone
I really
call.
cared about.
This
And
is
I
the
used to
house
get
cleaning
so
game.
much joy out of seeing him create.
This is the
For him to
theater
suddenly
game.
become angry and frustrated like
This is also the
was
theater
the
game.
worst thing for me.
I don't know what this is. This is this game. I don't know what this is. I feel that though. Either way, I'm sure Coda is the girl at the end of the prison. Maybe this is Coda too. Maybe the player is Coda. Or maybe the player in all of these is just the player. And it is the other characters in the story, just as it's the other characters in the adventure who are always Wreden and Coda. Coda is the developer, the girl, the one to talk to, the creator of the spaces, the adventurer. And Wreden seeking answers, statements, seeking positivity, encouragement, but also to know that a person is flawed, to dig into those flaws, and yet somehow have them call themselves perfect anyway. Contradictory expectations.
I don't know. This is what I felt at
Is
the time.
that lecture game?
I don't know how else to explain it. I wanted it to stop.
This is the
more than
previous game.
anything. I had never felt so right.
This is the house cleaning game.
I needed more than I had ever needed anything.
Do
for
you
this
understand that
to
you won't be
stop.
happy until you love me? This is for you. That's a terrifying sentence. That is vile and gross and... Ugh, I hate that. I really care about the space between the doors. Yes, it was literally the last thing I did before coming here. And there she is.
But it didn't stop. After finishing this one, Coda takes another 7 months and comes up with a new game.
Why are you so judgmental of that? The machine. Games take time, dude, including the coming up of an idea. Ma'am, glad to see you've arrived safely. We've captured the machine. It's waiting for you now. You can begin the interrogation whenever you like. I intend to be quiet. Very good. Just be warned that someone called the press, so we might have a bit of attention on this one. Also, one more thing you should know about the machine. It calls itself Coda. See, in each one of these, in each story as we go along, it feels like he is trying to gradually get more and more explicit. That he likes making games. Or even she likes making games, but Davey refers to them as a he. But the character represented is a she. So it's probably going to be, from my linguistic point of view, he for the developer, she for the game representation. Maybe. If I can remember to keep that consistent, because goodness knows it's hard. It is complicated. This entire game is a bunch of smoke and mirrors. It's very good. It's a very good set of smoke and mirrors. I love this game. Coda keeps developing these games to try and be more and more explicit. The first few games, the first several games are all Coda just enjoying being Coda. Developing games like this. Developing towers that are representations of who he is as a person. Developing hallways, just for the look of it. Designing a puzzle. Making a courtyard. Being artistic. He keeps being asked why he does this, and he enjoys it, by and large. He He finds it neat, I think. I'm fully interpreting Coda here. I'm fully doing exactly what Wreden did. I own up to this. Enjoys making games, enjoys talking about making games, and that culminates in the house cleaning game, which he called up Wreden to specifically talk about what it is like to enjoy what you do, even if it seems mundane and difficult. But he didn't get that. He cuts off the loop. He doesn't read into the dialogue. He just does it. A game that he says loops forever. Because he didn't pay much attention to what was being said, only to the game. Only to a game that was playable. Nothing that was for the mind. And after this point, things become gradually more obvious that Coda is trying to say something. Trying to convey something. And we get the game of the door flying towards the station, and we have truth combating the player, as the player has to explain how game development is hard and they can't keep doing this and they can't continue being creative. And then in the very next game we have this far-off narrator who's apparently the wizened one of all, who needs them to explain that game development is easy even though it's not. That needs to sit in this middle ground where empty homes make home loners, but you can still like house cleaning. I love this game. Oh, also, it's pretty abundant that he dislikes audiences. Every time an audience has come up, it's become a gradually more uncomfortable experience, including like the audience that would eventually see the play, and the cones that were used to represent people. Then the space station, the whisper one with the door, is represented by this idea that you're saving everyone by conveying these falsehoods or these truths. I think it's falsehoods in that game. And then this one, where you're harassed by the press as you're just trying to make a game. Hello. I'm sorry. This is how the game is
And of
designed.
course, it's the machine.
But I don't believe in it. My sympathies. And I'm sorry. You stopped. Your work was keeping us alive, and here we have game making is easy. Game making is everything that I want to do, and it's always worth it eventually. There's people out there, can you imagine what pain you put them through? Or to possibly go back to trusting you to do this job. It was only because of your creations that any of us can make it through every day, which again comes from the narrator's perspective of wanting and needing Coda to make games, to make good games, and for those games to be worth it and to mean something, for him to impose this meaning onto another person. That's what needs to happen. You need to go out there and apologize to them. You have to admit to the people that you allowed them to suffer. I've been so alone. Apologize for leaving me. I've seen the thing you fear. This sounds just like someone who thinks they know so much about someone who isn't there. Who decides it's his responsibility to go out there and tell people what's what. This is ma'am, and this machine is Coda. Maybe it's the other way around. Or maybe it's not consistent at all, and maybe I've just imposed that. Maybe in the theater game, the woman is Coda, being the authoritative, but not really authoritative one that Wreden tries to talk to. Maybe
Look
in the
around here.
prison
You
game,
can step back
the
out the
woman
door you came in
is Wreden finding the prison to be insane and difficult. I didn't hear what he said. I didn't even know he had a line when I was standing here. Maybe in the prison the girl is meant to be Wreden, who's suffering within, who thinks they're upset and terrifying because they're a prison in the first place, who's hunting for the machine. Maybe in the space game, the truth is Wreden and the player is Coda, trying to convey this oddity of having to lie and declare that things are terrible, even though they're not perfect either. Or maybe it's just meant to be a little bit poetic, and a little bit strange, and a little bit else. Or maybe they just like the distinguishment of representation. There's not much we can do to define it as such. My friends, I have a troubling revelation. The problem with this is, any of this, is I am undoubtedly making assumptions and conclusions and declarations about what this game is and what it really is about, and thus falling into the same trap that exists in the first place. I am an assumption, this is true. But the consequence of this very much then lays down to whether or not you take this to assume things about the creator. I don't know Davey Wreden. I like his games. I imagine I will like Wanderstop. Those are assumptions, but... well, that is an assumption anyway. But it's true. To me, it's true. But I don't know much about Wreden. I don't know why he made this game. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Maybe it's because of the Stanley Parable or the blog post that he made on his website at one point in time. Or maybe it was something he saw someone else going through. Or maybe he was the narrator at one point in time. I don't know. I don't know him at all. And that's okay. As long as I don't go around telling people that I do. As long as I don't go around telling people that he must be depressed because he made a game full of prisons. I can just say I like what he did. And I can explain what I think these games are about. Because that is my domain. It is my domain to decide what I think they're about. But it's not mine to say who the author really is. It doesn't work like that. If you read my stories, you can't necessarily imagine anything or know anything about me or who I am. But you might know what I was talking about. When I write stories on death, you may falsely assume that I've conquered it, but you may accurately assume that I was writing about a fear of it. And you would never know without me saying. You would only have the work. Only have the result. I also love that I can hear a coastline when this place is as urban as it gets. Machine will not apologize to us. It's not important. We're stronger than it thinks we are. We do not need its games. You shouldn't have needed it in the first place. Yes, I agree, miss. Words, uh-huh. That showed that we are not failures. We'll destroy everything the machines created. And now we're at the theater.
So now the work is becoming self-destructive. And I'll tell you, at the time that I first played this game, shortly after he made it, here's what I'm thinking to myself. I'm thinking that code is stuck in his own head, and that it's having a very negative effect on him, and that all he needs to do is just start showing his work to people, to get some actual feedback on his games. It might get him out of isolation. And so, as I'm thinking this, I realize that I could be the one to initiate it. Because it would never occur to Coda to start actively soliciting feedback, so
The game
what
was
if
once
I did it
unbalanced
for
because they
it?
made the weapons too loud.
If he could see the difference it would make, to have more actual conversations
game?
with other human beings, would that bring him out of his mental spiral? Would it give him
what
confidence in
weapon?
himself? Would it bring meaning back into his work?
Yeah, he probably made games for himself from the get-go. Ah!
So I started showing Coda's work to
Holes
people.
in
I took
the
this
core of
one,
a person.
and the islands which you just played, the
Falling
theater, the
through,
notes, the
to be
house cleaning
swallowed
game,
at
and
the
some
door.
of the prison escape games. I brought them to people that I knew and trusted. I asked their opinions. And the great part is that they really loved his games. You know, the point of it all was just to give him some external reference point, but they genuinely loved his work. There was nothing for him to be afraid of.
Except someone who apparently decides to show his work without his permission. Do you understand how destructive that is? Speaking, of course, to the narrator, not to the actual reader. Type of game, but it was a CSGO type. One side had a rifle that was louder, so they thought it was stronger and more aggressive, meaning in a 1v1, the louder weapon won.
Can you see why I felt like this was the right
That's
thing to
really
do?
weird.
Because it's the thing that I always feel like I need, to be told that my work is good, that I am good. When someone really connects with a thing that I've made, when they see themselves purely in my work, there's nothing that feels better. And I got to give that very same feeling to my friend. I did something, I really felt like I'd done something good, like I was a good person. I felt like there was a friend who
So
was
it
in
was
trouble
a
and was
confidence
unhappy
thing.
and maybe didn't like themselves, and I could fix it. If I could give him this gift, maybe I could fix the problem. When they told me how much they enjoyed his games, it was the best feeling. It was the absolute best feeling. It made me feel so happy. So beautifully, beautifully happy.
You just watched the Elvis
So
movie.
anyway,
That is just as scummy.
Coda
I
finishes this game,
fully
and
believe it.
then really he
Go
just
burn in
kind
hell,
of
mate.
takes off for a while. So this is June of 2011, and I didn't hear anything from him for several weeks, I guess. And so out of nowhere, one day I get an email, and it's got a private link to a new game of Coda's.
Which he now shares publicly.
This one is called The Tower, and to my knowledge, it's the last game that
I
Coda
will
ever made.
briefly bring up these tarot cards
So
again.
let's take a look.
Because we're here at the tower. Which, funnily enough, can also be seen as like representations. The tower, the setting, the devil, and the star. Anyway, these are cards 15, 16, and 17. Remember that.
And this is where I have trouble saying anything meaningful about Coda's work. Because more than anything else, the tower just feels distant.
That's the
It
goal.
feels like it's trying to distance itself from the world.
It's trying to distance
It's a
itself
very
from
cold
the
game.
one person who got a private link to the game, my friend. My dear narrator.
This room actually has a maze in it. Except that all the walls of the maze are invisible. And then every time you touch one of the walls, there's this awful flashing and noise, so the experience is really miserable. The game goes beyond not being meant to be played, it actually seems to despise the player for trying to play it at all.
My eyes. Yeah, I'm
But I
gonna
do want
stop
to show
that.
you the rest of the levels, so when you're ready to continue, press enter and I'll put a bridge over the maze.
There we go. I worry about that causing like epileptic seizures or something.
And to be fair, it's not like this is the first game that's needed some modification to
I
be
don't know
playable.
what causes such
Like
things,
the
but-
house cleaning game. You know, that one used to actually loop the cleaning chores and you just cleaned a house forever. I had to cut it off so that you could exit the house and the game would actually end. But that game had an idea that it was actually trying to communicate. What's the deeper
Okay.
idea behind the invisible maze? The only way past this challenge is to randomly guess the 6-digit code. Like the invisible maze, it's frustrating to me, because it's the opposite of everything else that Coda has made. It doesn't encourage thought or engagement. It doesn't ask anything of me,
15,
except a lot
16,
of my time.
17.
If I could have reached him during this time,
Devil,
then maybe I could have
Tower,
asked him. But I
Star.
couldn't. I still don't
A
really
clue
understand
from
why
one
this is
game
here.
is the answer to a door.
I'll put the code on
in
the ground for
another.
you here, though, so that we can move on.
Must be hacking. Hello. Greetings,
The
door.
switch to open this door is actually on the other side of the door, meaning that it's literally impossible to solve from this side. So even if you somehow brute forced your way through the first 2 challenges and you got to this point, there's actually just no way to progress. And it's scary for me, the idea of Coda cutting himself off entirely, just saying, you know, that's it, that's the end of the conversation, not giving me any way to fix the problem. I feel like a failure, I guess, when I can't fix the problem. But I can open this door for you, so let me do that. Was I a failure for not understanding this game? I mean, I don't know why I would be. It's not like everything needs to have a solution, but I feel it somehow. I feel like I failed, and I don't understand why. I remember, it's June of 2011. I'm playing this for the very first time. And as I'm playing, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know this person. I have no idea who this person is. It wasn't the guy I knew, it wasn't my friend.
Are you sure?
I had come to so many conclusions from looking at all of his work up to this point, and then suddenly none of them... I had been trying to, though. That was the thing. For years I was trying to get to know him, to understand who he actually was and what he stood for.
Did you
I
ask
asked him so many times to please just tell me what his games mean to him. I asked him please to tell me what the 3 dots mean.
Maybe he didn't want to.
And he
Maybe he
wouldn't.
liked other people's answers more. Maybe that was the point.
I just felt so
And
strongly
assuming
that
these
if I could have
things didn't
connected
help.
with him, that if I could have somehow made his work my own, that I would finally be once and for all happy.
Well, that's toxic.
It was that I needed to see myself in someone else. I needed to be someone other than me. But he stopped and left. And it felt somehow like I had failed. Where did I screw up?
Depends. Dear Davey,
I'm the reason that you stopped making games, aren't I?
thank you for your interest in my games.
Because of what I did.
I need to ask you not to speak to me
Poisoned
anymore.
it for you.
When a friend of mine played this section of this game, having gone through everything else, they cracked up at this section, and that surprised me so deeply. But I think I get it, at least on some level. Having now really been able to examine things, I can say it was always going to be here. It's always going to be this.
I don't think I ever told you this, but when I took your work and I was showing it to people, it actually felt...
I wonder at times whether you think I'm making
It
these
felt
games
as though
for you.
I were responsible for something important
DJ,
and
like
valuable.
the Animal Con headlights that you are. Get run over. You've so infected my personal space that it's possible I did begin to plant solutions in my work somewhere hidden between games. If there was an answer, a meaning, would you
And
would it make you
the
any
people
happier?
who played them,
Devil Tower stuff.
they treated me like I was important. They really listened and cared about what I had to say.
I just stopped taking
Even
my
though I was
games
showing
and
your
showing them to
work, it was...
people against my wishes.
I felt good about myself. Finally. For a moment, while I had that, I liked myself.
Giving them something that's not yours to give, violating the one boundary that keeps me safe. Would you stop changing my games? Stop adding lampposts to them?
And
Would
then
you
you
simply
stopped.
let them be
And
what
I
they
didn't
are?
have anything left to show people.
He doesn't
I
stop
just
talking.
had to be with myself. And as soon as that happened, there was no feeling at all. Nothing. Less than nothing. What does that mean?
When I am around you, I feel physically ill. You desperately need something that I cannot give you. I literally do not have it. Maybe Koda was the friends we stabbed in the back over and over and over again. Struggling to come up with these new ideas is not making me depressed. Low points are just part of the process. The fact that you think I am frustrated or broken says more about you than about me. I realize that doesn't make any sense to you just yet. Which is fine. You're not my problem to solve. But I do hope that one day it clicks, and that you make peace with this thing that you're wrestling.
I'm afraid that I did something really stupid because I don't like myself.
And when you finally see what I'm talking about, don't say anything. No, this is not my first time playing. This is probably my 5th time through. I love this game. It's so core to myself and a lot of the things I believe in when it comes to game development, and I think in many ways it may be the cause of them. It's honest. And it's good. This is a sucker for talking games. If you mean games that have something to say, then yes. If you mean games that have voices to them, depends. Also, this door has no sound effect this time. Ah,
That's why I'm
That's
releasing
it.
this collection of your work. Is because I haven't been able to find any other way to reach you. I've tried everything. And so a part of me has hope
What if I'd
that
gone back?
if I put this compilation out into the world, and if I put my name on it, that maybe enough people will play it so that it'll find its way to you, so that I can tell
the
you
game
that
keeps it velocity. It
I'm
must be like,
sorry.
yes.
I know I screwed up. If I apologize to you truly and deeply, will you start making games again? Please. I need to feel okay with myself again. And I always felt okay as long as I had your work to see myself in. I mean, is something wrong with me?
Maybe.
Because I know that I did an awful thing, and I'm doing it again right now. Like, I'm showing people your work, but I
That is the
can't
definition of
stop
madness, right?
myself from doing it. That's how badly I need to feel something again, like I'm an addict. There has to be something wrong with me. Can I apologize? What if I tell you I was wrong? Will that work? Will that fix it? I don't know. I don't think it will, but there's nothing else that I can do. Just tell me what you want. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please, start making games again. Please help me. Please give me some of whatever it is that makes you complete. I want whatever that wholeness is that you just summoned out of nothing and you put into your work. You were complete in some way that I never was. And I want to know I want to know how to be a good person. I want to know how not to hate myself. Please. I'm fading, and all I want is to know that I'm going to be okay.
Oh, the room is shrinking. That's the end of Koda's games. Epilogue. Vaguely reminiscent of Grand Central Station. Though, I vaguely remember this clock having hands. Wonder what happened to those. Honestly, I hate this guy more and more. Like, every word just shut up.
More.
He's certainly not
More
pleasant.
love, more praise,
Guy
more
took the
people
hands.
telling me that I'm good. Always more. It's like a disease.
I love these impossible spaces. No conjoining path, and yet a very clearly conjoining path, including a middle section that connects the two. And then on the other end,
Solution.
somewhere else. Something fun about that. Something honest. I've always liked the strange honesty of
I guess if someone had
doing
told me ahead of
impossible
time that he
things.
just really enjoyed making prison games, maybe I wouldn't have thought he was so desperate. I wouldn't have told so many people that he was depressed. Maybe he just likes making prisons.
Maybe he does.
Even now, the disease is telling me to stop. Don't show people what a shitty person you are. They'll hate you.
A single picture frame in this entire building and it's blank. Picture's blank because he ran out of assets to steal.
If I knew that my life depended on finding something to be driven by other than validation, what would that even be?
Imagination, friend. Creativity.
It's strange, but the thought of not being driven by external validation is unthinkable.
Do some things
Like,
just
I
because they're
actually
cool.
cannot conceive of what that would be like. What now? I think I need to go. And I'm sorry, because I know that I said that I would be here and I would walk you through this, but I'm starting to feel like I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot that I need to make up for. And so I'm just gonna... Okay.
Jacob Geller talked about this game in a video called Art Made for No One. It was a good analysis of how strange some of these things can be. And how sometimes, even as a viewer, you feel like the art was never for you, was never for you to see, to remark upon, to understand. But this game, I don't think, unlike supposed by channels like Leadhead, or by that guy who made the incredible The Artist is Absent video. Thomas, you didn't walk through any of them. Yeah, I walked around them. I don't feel like to respawn to train you. I feel like a game like this is meant to feel distant, but I don't think it's judging critics. I think it's judging how we interact with others. How we interact with people who do things that we don't understand or that are new to us or that we feel like we can't do. How we deal with jealousy and envy and trying to interact with other humans, trying to make friends, all the little strange things that make up trying to be human. almost feels like you can see something written there out of the horizontal lines. It's a big fall. It is a big fall.
Turn back.
For R.
Turn back from this cave.
Oops, lost power. Wee.
You said, let me prove that I'm brave. Let me keep going. But the cave goes for miles and miles and miles. And you're so tired. But I know that you're strong.
William. I've never known how to pronounce his last name.
So turn back.
He stole the song too? No.
Turn back.
The Beginner's Guide. Well, that was fun. That was a couple hours. Solid. Good experience. I'm glad to have played that. I might upload this to YouTube, this recording. It's pretty clean. A good run through with all my thoughts just kind of jumbled in there. Shooken up like a salt shaker. But I had fun. Thank you, Crazy Crazy Fox, for hanging out with me for most of this time. Thank you for stopping by, AA attendant. Thank you for visiting Virally and Jets. Delete the chat thing to make people think you're insane. No, it's gonna be there. But yeah, I'll see you all later. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a very, very lovely day. Stay safe. And have a good one. My master's immortalized. How could this happen? Such is life. Enjoy being immortalized, Crazy Crazy Fox. Bye-bye.